Hello, everyone, and thank you for your continued support of the Don't Risk It podcast, and I hope everyone is enjoying the holiday season. The Don't Risk It team is continuing our break from recording new programs, but we will be back in a few weeks with some new episodes. Until then, we are revisiting some recent programs that feature critical issues facing emergency service organizations. Today we are revisiting my conversation with Shawn Nelson regarding cybersecurity. Shawn is the Chief Information Security Officer for Gladfelter Insurance Group. Please take time to listen back to these important topics, and we'll be back soon with new episodes. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Shawn. Shawn, I want to thank you for joining me, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, Shawn, I grew up in an area that was around a lake. So whenever I think of fishing, I think of grabbing a pole and getting a fish out of the water. I don't think that's what we're here talking about today. So can you describe what fishing is in a cybersecurity capacity?
Absolutely. Phishing has really evolved. We all have received the phishing emails before that had the misspellings and the grammar that was not quite correct. And really, over the last couple of years, we have seen a significant evolution in that process. Really, it has evolved from the one-off email that you could easily identify to a more sophisticated cyber scheme that no longer are the emails easy to detect or identify. We've really seen a lot through the recent AI technology that has come in the industry. And we've also seen it more evolve into a social engineering technique, not only from an email standpoint, but also from text messaging to voicemails to all the different aspects that a individual communicates with or consumes.
So why is phishing problematic?
It works.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt, everybody is struggling with the overloaded task of everyday activity. And when you see an email, whether it be what appears to be from your boss or from a government agency, they typically try, and that's where the social engineering aspect comes in, they try to get you to respond quickly without thinking.
So what are some tips for identification of phishing email? You mentioned, misspelled words or odd email addresses. Can you elaborate on some of those things that can help us identify phishing attempts?
Absolutely. First and foremost is don't trust email or any types of informal communication. So for instance, in an email, the very first thing that you want to do is identify who the email is from. Look at the from address, look at the spelling of the domain name. For instance, at gladfelters.com, is there a misspelling? A lot of times we see that there may be a typo in the word. It really should be an I, but it's actually an L that is used to try to trick you in doing that. We've also seen an evolution into something called BEC attacks, or business email compromise. And this is a specific type of attack that is growing exponentially. And what a hacker will do, most everybody uses some type of online email, whether it's Gmail or Yahoo or Office 365. And what the hackers will do is they will try to compromise that mailbox by guessing your password and those type of things. And then they'll monitor your mailbox. And that could be for a period of a couple days to a couple weeks, looking for specific types of emails that may have attachments for invoices or something that they could utilize to try to extort money. And then at that point, what they'll do is they'll actually utilize your mailbox to send emails to people that you communicate with on a regular basis. How do we protect against those type of things? Is really, the first and foremost is implement MFA, multi-factor authentication. So on your personal accounts, on your email accounts, make sure you implement MFA. That is by far the first step in doing that.
Are there any things, or are there some things that organizations can do internally, maybe by, sending out messages that aren't phishing, but they're disguised to look like phishing to try to teach, the individuals that this is what it might look like, but it's sent from within the organization to train versus, an actual phishing attempt?
Yep. From an organizational standpoint, there are several applications out there and systems out there that will send phishing emails to your employees that you can utilize. And then that way they see firsthand what some of the new trends are. A lot of those services will also auto update themselves. So when there's a new phishing technique that's being utilized, they'll also use that. And then you can have statistics on how many people are clicking on the email and provide some type of back end training. The other important component to that is educate your employees with awareness training. What are the different things in emails that you can identify?
So how does this topic relate to emergency services and their data security?
Good question. So the hackers or the individuals behind these phishing schemes, really what they're looking for is the data, the information. That's really what they want in order to sell on the dark web or on the underground part of the internet. And emergency service organizations collect a lot of personal information from individuals and customers that they deal with.
So can you provide some email safety tips, someone, that some of our listeners could follow to reduce the chance of phishing? I think you hit on a few of them, but I'd like to sum it up in just one concise question here.
Absolutely. So as I said earlier, the techniques that are being utilized by the cyber criminals continue to advance on a regular basis. So some of the fundamental tips is implementing multi-factor authentication, which we talked about earlier. The second item is don't trust any links that are in the emails. And this isn't specific to emails. It could be text messaging. If you get a link in a text message, I'm sure we have all seen that before. You receive the text message. It says your account has been hacked. Click on this link. Those are all different types of social engineering constructs that they use. One of the more recent avenues that we're seeing an uptick in is QR codes. A lot of the restaurants post-pandemic have started using QR codes on the tables that you can just scan with your phone. They put them on posters. That is an upcoming trend in phishing where now the emails or the text message or even stickers are placed on top of these QR codes. So when you scan it with your phone, you go to a phishing link and they prompt you for your different credentials. So never trust these methods that you're sent to click on the link. Always go directly to the site by typing it in yourself. Or if it's a phone number specific with these business email compromise scenarios, don't ever call the number that's in the email. Make sure you're calling that number from a number you looked up or from your contact information.
It almost seems like that public access points like USB ports, and then you mentioned the QR codes that are areas to somewhat avoid, because I'd read that one time to avoid charging your phone with a USB port in an airport because they could possibly been infected and could infect your phone.
Absolutely. And that brings up a good point. So as far as the mobile device aspect of it, always make sure you're updating to the latest patches and updates that are out there in the industry, because a lot of the airports, those type of things, that's publicly accessible. So it's very easy for a hacker or an individual to replace those components or add something in front of those devices that would compromise your data. So keeping your devices current, and also bring your own USB device. Also in hotels, try not to connect to the public Wi-Fi that's out there. Utilize the cell phone devices. If you have a laptop and a cell phone, connect to your cell phone's hotspot versus using the hotels.
So are there any other topics you feel are noteworthy of cybersecurity awareness?
Absolutely. I think, as we hear a lot about in the news, the artificial intelligence and AI that's coming down the pike, that is going to pretty much change not only the landscape of how we do business, but also the cyber landscape. And what I mean by that is the generation of what they call deep fake technology. Right. So what happened? One of the big things with phishing attacks is the number one mechanism that is used today to breach corporations and entities. And everybody hears about ransomware, right? And ransomware is the process of, you click on a phishing email or you click on a link and it scrambles or encrypts your local data. And then all of a sudden you get a prompt on the screen that's asking you to pay a ransom, right? Well, what we've seen over the years is that as more people become aware of ransomware, they're getting better backups. They're making sure their backups are not connected to their computer systems. They're detached from that. So the hackers have evolved into this multi-tiered extortion process. And what I mean by that is it'll start out with a phishing email. You click on a link, they'll capture your MFA PIN, and they'll gain access to your system. At that point in time, they plant malware into your system that may sit in your network for anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks to a couple months. The important part about that is now your backups are no longer good, because if you attempt to restore from a ransomware breach, they're already in your network. So now it's more difficult to clean up your data. Secondly, if you decide not to pay the ransom, now they're going to use either they'll pull off your data first, steal your data, and threaten that they'll publish it online if you don't pay the ransom. Or more importantly, circling back to the AI conversation, is something called deep fake technology, where they'll utilize AI tools, whether it be a voicemail, a voice that sounds like you, whether it be a video that makes it look like you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, stealing, a wanted poster, stealing information, and they'll threaten to publish that deep fake information online if you don't pay the ransom. So as we evolve in this technology, security tools and preventative maintenance are also going to have to evolve to keep up with that.
And deep fake is somewhat in its infancy, but you can go on YouTube and watch some pretty scary videos of how well it's already working, and it's not even where it's going to be, 5-10 years from now.
Absolutely. And, what's crazy about that is, people say, well, how do I combat this? I'm just going to turn off my computer system. I'm not going to use it anymore. Well, we live in the day and age of data breaches, right? So make sure you do the fundamentals. Keep your systems patched. Make sure your phone's updated with the latest operating system. If your phone no longer supports it, you need to upgrade. You need to upgrade your computer systems. Backups. Make sure your backups are stored offline and not directly connected to your computer system. And most importantly, for an organizational perspective, is have the conversation with, your employees of what to do in this situation, how to respond. But as an organizational standpoint, talk through the scenario, have a plan. If my systems are to be encrypted, if my associate or if my individual employee were to fall victim to a ransomware attack, don't just shut off the computer and go home at the end of the day, report it, because we're all in this together.
So does VFIS offer any safety programs regarding cybersecurity?
Yes, VFIS has cybersecurity trainings on VFISU.
Good deal. So, is it video? Is it written training? What type of program?
It's video training.
Video training. All right. Well, we'll be sure to reference that material in the description of the program. But Shawn, I really want to thank you for taking some time to join us today. It was a lot of great information, and it was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I want to thank you for listening to the program and for your interest in VFIS safety resources. I want to thank our guest, Shawn Nelson, once again for his time and information. Please consider subscribing to our program to stay up to date on new content releases. Also, if you like what you've heard, please consider leaving a review below. For more information about the many resources available from VFIS, please visit VFIS.com. And to submit ideas for future discussions, please reach out by email at VFISriskcontrol@VFIS.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Gladfelter Insurance Group, VFIS, and its employees.